been a year. 2013 year has been a year. So we're winding to the end of the year and really looking forward to an exciting and challenging 2014. So thanks for those folks that have joined in at home on Rogers TV, and to the Rogers TV folks on behalf of council and all of the staff and the community, I want to thank you for your coverage over this past year. You certainly bring community politics and community government into people's homes on a regular basis, and it's very much appreciated by everyone here. So to the folks at Rogers, thank you. We have completed our in-camera meeting this evening, and we're now in our regular council meeting. I'll ask you to join in a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you. Are there any additional items for tonight's agenda? Starting with council. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, I'd like to talk about the DIA Christmas project.
Okay. Councillor Purdon.
Yes, I'd like to do a very brief report on first impressions.
Any other members of council? Staff. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. A brief information note about the election website.
Okay. Any other members of staff? Seeing none, I have two items. One with regards to a certificate from the Emancipation Festival, certificate of recognition, and a invitation to council to sign the Nelson Mandela Tribute Book. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Confirmation of the minutes, please, from November 29th.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purdon. The minutes of the pre-budget meeting held on November 29th, 2013 as printed be adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. And December 2nd, please.
Again, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purdon, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on December 2nd, 2013 as printed be adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Resolution moving council into committee of the whole, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purdon, that City Council now go into committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business.
All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We're now in the committee of the whole. We do not have any public meetings this evening. We have a couple of deputations, and I believe one of the two parties receiving the facade improvement grants this evening. One of the parties is here, one is not, but I'll invite Councillor Boddy, who's the chair of planning, to join me at the podium, and we'll present the facade grants. Kathryn Braul is the owner of Tone Yoga Studio, and Tone is located at 900 First Avenue West. Tone has converted this building into a combined live-work space. In 2012, Ms. Braul received a facade grant for the new Tone Yoga Studio. The sign for Tone Yoga Studio, that was erected to promote the yoga, dance, and music studio. The property was formerly known as the Christian Science Society and is designated under the Ontario Heritage Act. It's also listed on the Owen Sound Register of Properties of Cultural Value and Interest. Tonight, Ms. Braul is receiving a grant for the work that has been carried out to repoint and repair the brickwork on the inside and the outside of the tower, which, if you can see the screen over here, that's indicated. On behalf of the City of Owen Sound, Ms. Braul, I'd like to congratulate you and thank you so much for your great investment in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
I enjoyed watching you work the last couple of years. Great job.
Would you like to say anything, Council?
I want to continue to thank the council for supporting my efforts to maintain that building. It's a very special place. I love it dearly, and I've invested a lot in it, and you have also, and I promise to continue to maintain that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Purdon has something to say, too.
Kathy, I just wanted to say that last week we had a presentation by the Aurelia group that came for the First Impressions. That's a group that came to kind of have a look at Owen Sound. We went to Aurelia, looked at Owen Sound and did a report for them, and they came here. I'll speak about it later. But one of the things that the group from Aurelia pointed out was your building and what a wonderful repurposed building it was, what a great example it was. They were very, very impressed.
Thank you. Thank you for telling me that.
It certainly speaks to the fact that everyone in this community takes real pride in our older architecture and our older people too, actually. So thank you very much. Our second grant recipient this evening is not able to be here. However, his name is Neale Kempe, and many of us are no stranger to Neale. Neale's the owner of the old post office building. And this building was designated under the Ontario Heritage Act in 1979. And you can see on the screen the before and after, which is kind of confusing because before is on the left and after is on the right. This is certainly a landmark in Owen Sound's downtown core. The facade grant is given to assist with the refacing of the 9th Street apartment entrance. These changes look great and certainly blend nicely with the brickwork on the rest of the building. Congratulations to Mr. Kempe on the completion of another great improvement to this fabulous building. Congratulations to both of the recipients of this facade grant contribution, and thank you to Councillor Boddy for assisting. Are there any members of the public who would like to ask a question of this council? Seeing none. Correspondence. We have a letter from the Teamsters with regards to railway self-regulation. And what is council's direction on this particular piece of correspondence? I felt it only fair to bring it forward to you. Councillor Boddy.
Unfortunately, given that we don't have a railroad in Owen Sound, it would be, I support their feelings, but we're so far off the railway line now, I suggest that we move to receive the letter.
Good stuff. Councillor Lemon.
At first, that's what I was thinking we should do, but on rereading the letter, it says the transportation of hazardous materials by all transportation modes. And we do have ships come into the harbor. We do have trucks and other vehicles. I think definitely there's a problem with the railways, but I think, well, maybe that's what we should do because we don't have a railway, but we do have the other modes of transportation. And transportation of hazardous goods by trucks in our area, there's a lot of it. I can't support noting and filing it because I think we should be aware that other products move by other methods other than railway, and they do identify that in the first line.
Any further comment? Motion is to receive. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Lemon. You're opposed, okay. And Councillor Purdon, 2 opposed. Motion's carried. Reports, we have a hefty consent agenda, items 12A 1 through 19. Councillor Adair,
Move the consent agenda, Your Worship.
thank you. Discussion, Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Minutes from the nonprofit housing or the Owen Housing Company, and there's a proposal in there that they basically merge into one, and I'm just wondering when, I guess questions to the city manager.
Sure.
That it's in these minutes doesn't mean we're necessarily approving it. I'm assuming there'll be some report or some discussion in a future meeting.
City manager?
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor McManaman. We've just, in the last few weeks, received the final information to prepare a report to come to council in the new year.
Thank you.
Councillor Body.
Just a question while we're there. A few years ago, we set up the fund from the Sesquicentennial Fund. I thought we had a councillor on that committee, and though it's arm's length, we have not seen any minutes coming to this committee as I thought they would come sort of like this, and it occurred to me this afternoon. Do we know what's going on with that committee, or if there's been minutes, or even who's on it?
Councillor Adair.
Well, there was a meeting, and the committee asked the city to turn over the last bid. There was about $3,000, not quite $3,000, that the city had been holding for 7 years for any unpaid invoices that may have resulted from the celebrations. And after 7 years, thought, well, there probably aren't any invoices left to come in, and there really hasn't been a meeting since then. That was the time that the name was changed to the Owen Sound Fund, the Community Fund. There was a report brought to council at that, but there hasn't been a meeting since then.
Councillor Adair again.
Just on the two housing boards, I mean, they have, for all intents and purposes, it's the same board. It has been for years. The one board hires the other board to do the work at the other's property. I mean, it does seem an inevitable thing that it's usually confusing to any council member that ends up sitting on that board to separate the two. It takes about a year or two to figure out, okay, these are two separate meetings, but they're held at the same time with the same group of people doing exactly the same thing. So it does make sense to clean that up at some point.
Number of new business licenses. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. I'm not sure who the question's on the council tracking sheet. Are we on? We're there, right? This has been asked to the police chief, and I can't recall his answer. So I'm just wondering if, Councillor Wright's not here. If you could, or maybe the city manager, I don't know who would take it. He was going to look into a bylaw to regulate the Highway Traffic Act violations. To be a city bylaw for certain violations, and he was going to bring back a report. And as I said, I did ask him this maybe 6 months ago, and I can't recall what his answer was. So,
Sure. It's the bylaw advisory committee that's going to be looking into that.
Oh, okay.
However, there will be some support from police services in terms of navigating on the Highway Traffic Act. So yes,
that's coming forward.
it is coming forward. Oh, Councillor Lemon.
Yes, Your Worship. There was a matter that was brought up some time ago, initially by Councillor Wright, that we were going to get out of approving or commenting on developments that are far from our city. And there was supposed to have been a report come back, which I haven't seen yet. Maybe I missed it somewhere, but it certainly isn't on the council tracking sheet, and I believe it should be. And I'm just wondering, when is that going to be cleaned up so we don't have these things that we're receiving reports on that we don't need? I thought that was supposed to have been submitted to us some time ago.
Well, I think you'll be pleased to hear the response. I'm going to pass this over to Director of Community Services for an update.
Through you,
It's,
your worship, it is on the tracking
Mhm.
sheets. I can't just find it quickly in terms of the number. However, you'll notice, oh, there it is. It's on the third page of the 2013 tracking, number 022, Resolution 130527. You'll see in the Community Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee minutes this evening that there is a report and a recommendation on that this evening for council.
Oh, I'm sorry, somehow I missed that one, I went through it several times.
Well, the devil's in the details.
It's also in the minutes. It's in the minutes on tonight's.
Okay, we've got that sorted through. What are we doing now? Any more discussion on any of the items in the consent agenda? Councillor McManaman.
Tracking sheet question for the Director of Community Services. It talks about the West Hill Tennis Courts, and it says it's complete. A 5-year term. We didn't sign a 5-year term, did we? Like, that was a temporary measure as opposed to the longer term.
Through you, your worship, to the best of my recollection, I believe it is maybe a 2-year. It's to the end of 2014 or 2015. So if the tracking sheet reports 5, that's my mistake. It's till the end of 2014.
And all I meant was that it's short term, it's complete. Yeah.
Any further items that council would like to pull forward on that particular item? Councillor Lemon.
Yes. Under operations, it says 130826, number 17. It's got a date completed. We have not yet received the communications plan for the system and its completeness. So I don't think that should be marked as complete.
The Director of Operations.
Yes, this was actually a resolution asking me to provide council direction with respect to the communications plan for the development of a 3-route system. So what we've been going through over the course of the last two and a half months, consulting the ridership with respect to the transit and bringing forward a 3-route options. That was what the plan was. That was presented in a PowerPoint presentation to council on October 7th.
Just the way this reads, and recommendations for an adequate communications plan for the system. The system meaning a 3-route system. We haven't gotten that yet.
I think we certainly won't be letting that slip by any of us. Thank you, Councillor Lemon. Further discussion on any of the items within the consent agenda? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have a series of reports. 12B1 is a report from the City Manager with regards to the Owen Sound Museum Interim Director and Chief Curator position extension. Ms. Corsi, I'll ask you to, if you could give us a review of the highlights of this report. It's pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. So in order to have the current interim director and chief curator of the Owen Sound Museums continue until the end of March, we felt it appropriate to bring a report back because at this point, that position had been contemplated for a 1-year extension. It makes sense to do that now. We've still got the RFP process to complete, and then we'll have more certainty regarding what the next steps most appropriately would be.
What's council's direction on this? Councillor Body.
I'll move the recommendation.
Okay. Further discussion? Councillor Purdon.
Just a question in terms of the interim director and chief curator. I'm not against the motion, I do support it. Her role in this bridging time, is she involved at all with any of the mediation or negotiations with the community waterfront group?
No, the facilitator sessions, she was not there involved with that.
Thank you. Okay, further discussion. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, and could we just have a comment on, it says that there's no impact on the budget related to this action? How can that be if she's,
Because the museum board pays.
okay, and
Any
but we
additional
give grants
funds?
to the museum boards, right? Both of them?
I'm sorry?
We give grants to both of the museum
But
boards.
it's not towards
Not towards
anything
her
in,
piece. Thank
in
you,
particular.
thank you.
Further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have a report from the Manager of Accounting with regards to the Small Rural Northern Municipal Infrastructure Fund. I hesitate to come up with an acronym for that. Something about Smurf, but naughty Smurf. Councillor Adair.
Move the recommendation that we receive the information that we are eligible. We now know from applying that we're eligible to apply.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Purdon.
Well, this looks like it's good news to be moving the next step. I was looking over the application, and it does ask about whether the road's going to include cycling infrastructure, for example, bike lanes and things like that. Is that going to be part of the application process?
Through you, through you, Your Worship. Certainly, the proposal, it is a county road, so the county would dictate to some degree what would be on the roadway from bicycle lanes. Certainly, as part of the scope of work on other developments, we do have that large trail system that runs along on the west side of the road. But our official plan does state that we provide, I won't call it bicycle lanes, I'll call it multi-purpose lanes.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from Manager of Revenue with regards to the 2013 tax policy, affectionately known as a heads and beds bylaw. Councillor Adair.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I'm pleased to move this for two reasons. One, it means that the city is getting a little bit more money, but it also, if you look at the trending at Georgian College, there are more and more students there year after year, which is in and of itself, regardless of the tax implications of the heads and beds, is a good thing. And I think something that we should all celebrate.
Thank you. Councillor Purdon.
Yes, I was also really pleased to see about the numbers on the increased enrollment, and happy to support this motion. I just wanted, it's not directly related to this topic, but I think there are important implications for transit in terms of the work that we're doing with transit when we have almost a 20% increase in students. And I think there's a later report coming before council about problems with parking and congestion up in that subdivision just behind Georgian, and the need to encourage people to be using transit instead of cars. So I just hope that very positive increase in Georgian, which I think is going to only increase, I think we're on a trend here, will also help us with our transit.
Ms. Corsi.
Really, just to build on that, I can report that I had a very successful meeting with Georgian College last week to talk about setting up a new program for the training of municipal managers and looking at using some of the CIOs in the area to teach the course as well, and really to provide an option to train our managers throughout the entire county at a local college.
Good news. Good news again, yes. I can see that Georgian College campus in Owen Sound will surpass 1,000 students in the very near future. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have a report, a few purchasing reports. It's council's direction on these items. A half-ton four-wheel drive pickup truck and other items for not only Public Works, but Water Division, Parks and Open Space, and Facilities. Councillor Purdon.
I'm just trying to help by moving the motion to award a tender for a half-ton four-wheel pickup to Guardhouse Chrysler.
Okay. 12B4, moved by Councillor Purdon. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 12B5. Councillor Purdon.
Well, I'll just...
You could
Get
do
on
an
roll, I could
omnibus
do them
bill.
all.
You could.
Yes, all of these have been through a tendering process, so there's, I don't have my numbers in front of me, but
5, 6, 7?
5, 6, 7?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Would you
12B.
entertain a motion for
Yes.
all of them?
Of course I would.
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Purdon, items 12B5, B6, B7. Approve the recommendations. Councillor Body.
I want to thank Councillor Purdon at this moment for moving the purchase of all the gas guzzlers. I can't say that we set you up,
You're
but
always flexible, that's right.
Let them ride bikes.
It's good to be flexible. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. We have a report from the Director of Community Services with regards to the extension of agreement, an extension of an existing agreement with the Eastside Snowmobile Club. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. I'd move we sign a further 5-year agreement with the Eastside Snowmobile Club for a snowmobile trail along the, what would that be, the north? No, that would be the west portion of the compost site. We've had it for 5 years now. It's worked out well. Continue for another 5.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have a report from our environmental superintendent. This is an amendment to Stewardship Ontario's municipal hazardous or special waste. We've been calling it municipal, we've been calling it hazardous waste or special waste for about 3 years now. It's sort of like the new mall and the old mall. And it's soon time that we could drop the hazardous and just call it special. But it's a services funding agreement, basically. Councillor McManaman.
Just a question for Mr. McRoberts, but there's no increase in funding. It's just a change in the name, more or less, and extending the agreement.
So, Your Worship, the only changes is now the reporting's done through a web portal. So when we actually document the volumes of material that we received, it goes through that process. Payment's basically the same.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Chamberlain?
I just know that this is a good item, because this is one of the things that we get money back to the city for being in this program. And it's helpful to us, so, good.
It is, and there will be more changes coming in the year ahead on that file that we don't have time to go into tonight, but changes are coming again. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the Manager of Public Works. This is the much-anticipated Asset Management Plan State of Linear Infrastructure. I feel there should be music attached to this, Mr. DeLiebeck.
I didn't bring my guitar with me, so unfortunately, you'll have to listen to my voice.
Well,
thank you, Your Worship, members of council, and staff, as well as members of the public. I'd like to take just a quick moment here to go through the report and the attached plan to give you an update on the asset management plan, the state of linear infrastructure. Today, we'll be going through some background information, some inventory and how the replacement values were generated, the estimated service life and asset condition for all of the networks, as well as the condition versus performance criterion and the funding versus need criterion, as well as some of our next steps moving forward. Asset management, as most of you may be aware of through Kate's presentations at the Finance Committee and the Operations Advisory Committee, answers basically 7 questions, which happen to be: what do we own? What is it worth? What condition is it in? What do we need to do to it? When do we need to do to it? How much money do we need? And how do we reach sustainability? Asset management plans are now required for future infrastructure funding, and the assets presented to you right now are only the assets identified by the Ministry of Infrastructure Investment Initiative as a starting point. In February 2013, we issued an RFP and retained the services of a consultant to extract information from various incomplete asset databases, dated inventory maps, and over 3,500 drawings up at Engineering Services. They also conducted a field investigation of the entire road network, including curbs, guide rails, and sidewalks, as well as the road pavements themselves, which we utilized in our asphalt resurfacing program this year. The consultant also did some 3D imaging on nearly all the sanitary manholes within the city. Just to take a quick snapshot of our inventory of linear infrastructure at this stage, essentially we have about 115 kilometers of roadway, 104 kilometers of sidewalk, 25 structures in the bridge and culvert networks, which include all the structures within the parks. I'd like to make a note about the road network. None of those kilometers include county roadways within the city. It's just city-owned. The water distribution, we have about 140 kilometers of water main. The wastewater collection, about 110 kilometers of collection pipe. And the stormwater, about 76 kilometers of stormwater collection pipe. In order to determine the replacement values for all of those asset components, we started basically from the bottom and worked upwards. We used the current standards, historical tender pricing, and the current market values to determine how much it would be to backfill this for that piece of pipe and all the way back up to restoration. So it really is a bottom-up process. So what we determined was, or estimated was that all the city infrastructure amounts to about $360 million in total replacement value in 2013 dollars. This diagram here provides a breakdown of about 116 million in our road network, 22 million in our bridges, 70 million in our water distribution network, about 70 million as well in our wastewater collection network, and 82 million in our stormwater collection network. The estimated service life is the period of time that an asset is expected to be of use and fully functional to the city. It is influenced by many other variables like soil conditions, the quality of the material itself, traffic patterns, weather conditions, so there's a lot of other external factors that go into the expected service life. But essentially, once an asset exceeds its expected service life, it needs to be replaced. However, that replacement can be delayed if that asset is in good physical condition. Some of our water mains speak to that. Asset condition can be determined by a various number of ways. For example, we could use closed circuit TV inspections for our sanitary and stormwater collection networks. We could use visual inspections for our bridges and our pavements through the BSI and the PCI. We utilized our water main break records to determine the condition of our water mains, and also any other maintenance-related observations. Ultimately, each network will be evaluated based on 2 criterion. One is condition versus performance. The other is funding versus need. The condition versus performance criterion is essentially the percentage of an asset's remaining service life, which is that percent RSL, was estimated using both the estimated service life and the asset condition. if we had that assets conditions information available. Each of those individual scores were then rolled up to the component level and then rolled up to the network level. Once they were rolled up, they're placed into one of 5 categories. These definitions were taken from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Infrastructure Report Card of September 2012. However, that range that you see for very good to very poor has been adjusted. In the report of the FCM report, essentially anything that was less than 50% was considered very poor, and we have adjusted that right here. So anything between 81 to 100% is considered to be very good. Essentially, it's typically new or recently rehabilitated infrastructure. Anything between 61 to 80% is considered to be good, which is adequate for now with a few elements that happen to be deteriorating. 41 to 60% was considered to be fair, but it does require some attention, with some of the elements experiencing some significant deterioration. Anything between 21 to 40% was considered to be poor, and that infrastructure happens to be at risk, where many of the elements are approaching the end of their useful life. And anything that was less than 20% was considered to be very poor and unfit for sustained service, where those components have reached the end of their theoretical useful life and service levels are beginning to be affected by that infrastructure. So understanding that percent remaining service life really does provide us a tool to help plan for replacement and major rehabilitation. It provides an insight of the quantity of assets that have exceeded their typical estimated service life and therefore require attention due to the increased probability of failure or deteriorating levels of service. So from this chart here, we can see that for the most part, the road network and the water distribution network are in good condition. Our bridges and wastewater and stormwater are in fair condition. So overall, at the bottom of the total of our $360 million of linear assets, we're sitting in a fair condition. This diagram helps to show the linear infrastructure replacement value in each of the rating categories, and essentially indicates that 50% of our assets are in very good to good condition. This figure helps to illustrate that the green, the percent in the fair, which happens to be about 25% of each of the respective networks of stormwater, wastewater, and roads, are right now in the fair category, but as time goes on, will slowly move down and drop into the purple zone, into the poor category, as the infrastructure continues to age. So I would like to turn it over to Kate to talk about the funding versus need criterion.
All right, so as Kevin mentioned, we're sort of evaluating on 2 different criteria. There's the condition versus performance, funding versus need. So far, condition versus performance is very much a static measure, whereas the funding versus need gives you an idea of how these assets are trending over time. So basically, we've taken all the information that we gained in the first stages. We've got our estimated replacement costs and our estimated service lives, and we're going to plot those onto a timeline and figure out what our annual requirement would be in order to fund those assets. And in this case, we used a 25-year timeline. For the funding portion, we based that on a 4-year average, taking figures from capital budgets from 2011 and our preliminary 2014 capital budgets and averaging those. And it's important to keep in mind that although our capital budgets include a lot of projects, when we're looking at these specific asset classes, we're really only looking at the linear roads, water, sewer mains, storm sewer. So money spent on, for instance, the wastewater treatment plant or a new road such as the 10th Street East Link those projects don't really count towards the plan because they're either for new assets or for some asset class that's outside of our scope at this point. So the next thing we did was, like I said, place those onto the timeline. And when we determined our funding versus need, sorry, I guess I do this myself, don't I? There we go. We used sort of the same rating schedule that we did for the condition versus performance, and we took those measurements and then applied a very good to very poor rating for each one. So this diagram is pretty busy, but basically it shows for each year what our estimated or required funding would be if we were to be fully funded, and those are the vertical bars there. The line across the top, or the higher line around $6 million, that's what amount we would need to spend every year on average in order to fully fund this asset management plan. And then if you look down at the $2 million line, that's where we are as of right now, that 4-year average. The space in between those is our funding deficit. Which is approximately $4 million a year. Yes. So our next steps with the plan are really to refine the information that we're presenting to you here. There is some work to be done to place items along that path and plan specific projects. We'll be looking at finalizing the report card to present to you in January. And at that time, we'll present a follow-up report. We'll be presenting recommendations to council at that point of how to address that funding deficit. So what decisions can council make at that time to either increase our funding or somehow decrease that annual requirement by extending the lives of assets or other ways like that. And then we will document council's decisions at that time, finalize our plan, and have it posted to our website, available for the public to view by May 2014, and that meets the requirements that the province has set out for any funding that we've applied for or received to this point.
Great.
Going forward, it is our intention to start bringing other asset classes into the plan. A big one that we'd really like to address immediately is facilities. So this would include our wastewater treatment plant, water treatment plant, city hall, the rec center, any city facility. And then I've mentioned some other asset classes that will be brought into the plan over time, including traffic and street lights, our corporate fleet, anything from fire trucks to park trucks, to police cars even, park amenities, and then even our IT assets in time.
Councillor Dare?
But just to be clear, that $4 million annual gap in spending does not include any spending gap caused by our facilities, by our parks, or any of the other assets that the city has.
That's correct. This is strictly water mains, sewer infrastructure, stormwater, roads and sidewalks, and bridges and culverts.
Councillor Lemon, and then City Manager.
Yeah, which is, the $4 million is certainly not unexpected, because everybody's in the same problem across Ontario. But the good part of this is, in terms of vehicles, things like that, I don't think you're going to find that there's a great deficit there, because we've been putting into reserves on a regular basis. So that area is going to be revenue neutral in the sense that we're all of a sudden not going to have to be putting vast amounts away for trucks, et cetera, because we've been doing that on a regular basis. My question to you is, do you know how we stand compared to other municipalities, or is it too early in the process to know that?
Using the FCM measures that Kevin was mentioning on a condition versus performance measurement, I believe that we are roughly around the provincial average.
Yes, actually, we're just slightly above all municipalities across Canada. So we're doing pretty good in our condition versus performance criterion.
That's in the report, isn't it?
That is actually in the report, yes.
Thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. First of all, I'd like to thank Kevin and Kate for a great job. They've worked really hard on this, and their committee has brought you in a very timely manner, a very comprehensive plan. It's only the beginning of the exercise, however, and as they've indicated, there are a number of steps forward. I would like council to give some thought to whether they would like a separate meeting in late January to go over this in more detail so that you could get a better grounding in all of the intricate details of this plan. So if that's something that you'd like to consider, we can certainly do that. I don't need an answer necessarily tonight, although in a way I do, because I do also have to thank Kevin for all of his hard work, and this is the last meeting potentially that Kevin may be attending. And I'd personally like to thank Kevin for his dedication to the city of Owen Sound. He's been busy while he's been here the short period of time. He brought you your winter maintenance policy and then the sidewalk cleaning policy. He's worked very hard on transit, and of course there are probably hundreds of hours that went into the asset management plan. So for all of that, thank you very much, Kevin. The town of Tillsonburg's gain is certainly our loss. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much to both of you, and if I could echo the city manager's thank you and gratitude from council for your service over the past couple of years. You have been very busy, and you certainly have left some very solid policies behind you, and we appreciate that. So all the best in Tillsonburg. And I can't help but think my back still aches when I hear that word, but I won't. And Kate, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing as well with the asset management plan. I do think the city manager is onto something when it comes to having a separate standalone meeting on one of our off Monday nights, just simply to deal with the deeper understanding of the asset management plan and how it's moving forward. I think it's a tremendously valuable piece of data to have. And I look forward to working more and more with this. So thank you. Councillor Purdon and then Councillor Twaddle.
Yes, I would really welcome an extra meeting to have more details. I had lots and lots of questions and thoughts and kind of discussion for us as a city, also working with other municipalities across the province and the country, because this is certainly not our issue alone. And so this is an incredibly helpful report, I think, for us as a council, and deserves some attention, especially when I know just how much time it took to put it all together. So I hope we'll be able to do that. And also thanks to you, Kevin, and all the best for your future.
Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. You look at a report like this and you think, we got some good news and some bad news, and I think really that the good news in this report is that finally we begin to have an understanding of what it is we're dealing with. Certainly when we did the business plans for the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant, that gave us a much better understanding of what the real costs were, and a better understanding of what we face going forward. If I go back 20 or 25 years, the easiest place that past councils found to cut the budget and keep the tax rate in line was in capital. I'm not criticizing them necessarily for their decisions in those days, but hindsight is 20/20, and you can make short-term decisions that have long-term consequences. For the first time, this municipality and all other municipalities are going to have much better tools. I think a really important thing to note, this is the good news, is that Kevin and Kate have done an amazing job at taking this really, really complex information and making it straightforward and understandable, and I truly appreciate that. And I hope that the taxpayers, I mean, you can go online and read this report, and it makes sense. It's a very systematic way of approaching it, and I think that's really important. And I'll move that we receive the report.
Great. So moving the recommendation. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you both very much for that. And while we're saying our goodbyes and congratulations to Mr. DeLebeck, I am remiss in welcoming back our Deputy City Clerk, Brianna Bloomfield. Welcome back, and we'll let you get on with the task at hand. It's good to have you back. Councillor Dare.
Well, I thought Councillor Purdon had made a very good point. I think we should have a meeting in January, and I think we should formalize that with a motion and have staff cause that to happen. This is a very important report, and I think it's important that not only we understand it, but the public understand it as well. The tremendous amount of work has gone into this, and this is sort of the beginning, and will have, I think, some major implications to the new council in 2015, and when they sit down to budget, closing a $4 million gap is going to be interesting.
That will be done. Councillor Purdon.
I want to thank Councillor Dare for reminding me I'm supposed to make motions, so thank you for making the motion.
All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We also have our new Deputy Fire Chief, Bruno Martino, in the audience this evening, and I believe Bruno is here supporting the report from the Fire Chief. Welcome you, and thanks for being here. Emergency Response Plan and the Emergency Working Group, page 215. It's Council's direction on this. Councillor Lemon?
Yes, Your Worship, I would move the recommendation.
Okay.
It appears from the report that it's been really well thought out.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor? Approved? That's carried. Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We have a report. We're now at minutes of boards and committees for council's approval. Quite a series of committees. Starting with 12C1. Councillor Dare.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move all the sets of minutes, the Accessibility Committee, the Bylaw Committee, CPAC, Cultural Advisory and Economic Development, and Finance Advisory Committee, and Operations. 2 Operations, 3, and the wastewater. Yeah.
Okay.
And a part, yes, and a partridge in a pear tree. Thank you, guys.
Discussion on any of those items? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have 2 sets of in-camera council, 1 council in-camera minutes, and 1 wastewater treatment plant. It's council's direction. Councillor Purdon?
Move acceptance of the in-camera minutes.
Approval? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That's carried. We have in-camera minutes for receipt from municipal nonprofit housing. Councillor McManaman? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Other business? Going to Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, I'd just like to comment on the DIA project that they have, these gift certificates that are paid for by all of the downtown businesses that have paid their levy to the city. And the gift certificates have been very popular this winter with people buying them. They can be spent as real money, just like checks in all the stores. And one of the other projects they've done is they've actually come forward to having a project where they are having some elves on the street giving out $250 worth of DIA dollars every day for 10 days.
Some very cheerful elves, I know.
Yes, and you do get hugs when you're an elf. And
I haven't been hugged yet.
it's been a very nice project. And I would just say for people, there's 4 more days to look for an elf when you're downtown shopping.
Excellent. Not elf as in elf in the movie, but elf as in local elf. And not elf. That's hard. Thank you. Councillor Burden.
Some downtown elves have rain dogs with them.
Yes. Rain dogs. Little rain dogs.
Rain dogs.
They're very cute.
They are very cute.
Antlers?
They do. Yes, yes. I was actually going to talk, though, about the First Impressions project. So in the summer, 5 members from Owen Sound, Paulette Parole, Jan Chamberlain, Jane Phillips, Dave Parsons, and Jane Phillips and myself traveled to Orillia, and we did a scripted process where we looked at our first impressions of Orillia, a city a little bit bigger than ours, about 33,000 people. And then they came here, a 6-member team came and looked at their first impressions of Owen Sound, and they provided a report for us last week out at Grey Roots. And I just thought it might be nice for the listeners. Most of council was there, which was fantastic to have such a good show of support, but I thought maybe our listeners might like to hear what the delegation from Orillia said about Owen Sound. Overall, they were very, very impressed with Owen Sound as a city, especially the downtown. They had lots and lots of positive things to say. Here's a nice quote. "I really enjoyed the experience. The residents were so open to answering questions and engaging conversation about the community. Walking along the river and visiting the mill dam is what would bring me back." So that was really nice to hear. They had a couple of their top positive observations from their visit: the friendly people, the great restaurants and retail mix, the beautiful architecture, the river and the beautiful natural scenery, the beauty and cleanliness of the downtown core, the great repurposing of buildings, for example, the Tone Studio that we acknowledged tonight with the facade grant, and private investment in residential housing surrounding the core so more people can live downtown. So those are the things that stood out. They had some suggestions for us, as we did as well for Orillia. Key suggestions were to develop the river, particularly paths. Well, that fits perfectly with our river precinct plan that we have in place. They'd like to see more the vacant lots used for community gardens and do more murals like the ones we've got started now, to actively improve the facades and signage, and maybe do some freshening up of the benches and light posts with some paint. Add some seasonal greenery and more street art. So some of it are just kind of things that could be done quite easily. So they had some things that they were taking back as well to Orillia. They really love the banners. They'd like to take back a banner program and more public art in the alleyways. They thought we had a community ambassador training program here because everybody they met was so positive. And for all of council, it was very nice to hear that people they met thought that council was very supportive of the downtown. People spoke very positively about the council and the staff. They didn't hear any criticism or bad words about the city. So that's always nice to hear. They would like to have more ethnic cuisine choices in their downtown. They thought that the Rocky Raccoon restaurant was an ambassador program all by itself. They said that several times. They really liked the water here, and they would also like to do more work, as they suggested, for us to tie the port and harbor area more to the downtown so it's more connected. So those are just some of the comments. There's a report that's been provided by the Orillia First Impressions Group, and we've written a report for them where we have some take-homes from our Orillia visit. So that was a project of the Economic Development Committee, and I'd like to thank everyone who participated in it and who came out.
Thanks very much for the overview, and to everyone who participated, both yourself and Councillor Chamberlain and staff and volunteers from the community who were involved in this program. It's always great to have another group take a look at your community with a certain set of parameters and give a real opinion on terms of how they find it. And although we maybe didn't learn anything particularly new, what we did have was some really positive feedback, which was wonderful for the community. So thank you for doing that. Councillor Purdon and then Councillor Chamberlain.
I just wanted to say, yes, many of the suggestions were validation for plans that we already have underway and directions that we're already moving in. So that's always good to hear. And it was similar when we went to Aurelia and provided our input. They were really thankful for some validation of things that they're either have in the works or they're just getting started with.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, I was just hopeful that maybe some of the highlights from that report might go on our website with visuals for that. And I also would like to thank all the citizens who bragged about us to these people. They said no one mentioned taxes. No one mentioned taxes. I hope you all heard that. It was really quite a nice evening we had.
Councillor Body.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I guess that was what I took out of it. One, it was really nice to see another similar city doing similar things, trying to do the similar things that we're doing so that we know that we're on the right track. Sometimes in a family you get to fight amongst yourselves, but when someone else picks a fight with your family, then it changes. And the one thing that came out of that, we as councillors often get bombarded with suggestions, complaints, negativity. We've got a very passionate city. We've got people that care about this city and they want it to be better, and we get a lot of that negative. Yet, somebody comes to visit from out of town, and it was very positive, from people on Main Street who said their taxes were good, who welcomed them to town, who bragged about our town. Everything was positive, and it's good for all of us to remember that although a lot of our citizens want us to do better, they also appreciate what they have and do recognize what we have. And you know, that an ambassador planning committee or a program so they can go back and teach how to be an ambassador, just like Owen Sound, is really neat. Of course, we don't need to do that. That's us. So I really enjoyed that evening with the total feedback we got.
It was great. Wonderful program, and great to see that to actually finally roll out. I would expect it would be on the city website within the Economic Development Committee's background reports and so on. Sure. The highlights would be good.
Their PowerPoint.
And the PowerPoint presentation would be fabulous. Well, I'm sure if you talk to IT, they'll know how to get that on there quickly and swiftly and all that good stuff. Thank you. Just me. 2 items for council. One, I would ask council, any member of council or staff that hasn't had an opportunity to pay their respects in terms of a written word in the memorial book of tribute for Nelson Mandela. I will leave this in the clerk's office until Thursday of this week. And if you have a moment you'd like to leave something in here for this incredible moment in history, the book itself will be kept at the Grey Roots Archives. Prior to that, though, it will be digitized and it will be on file at the Owen Sound Library for future. So, and also, council, I'll pass this around. Council should be aware that City of Owen Sound has been awarded the Emancipation Festival's first Certificate of Appreciation. And this is a certificate of appreciation with deepest appreciation to the City of Owen Sound. Emancipation Festival recognizes their continued support in our efforts to promote, preserve, and celebrate our local and national Black heritage. This partnership has helped to ensure the success of this responsibility. And they're looking at this as a responsibility, and they've given us this as a recognition of what we've done over the years and a commitment to maintain this responsibility going forward. So once we have all had a chance to look at this, we'll have it installed here at the council chambers for everyone to see. So thank you. Madam Clerk. Yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to advise council that on January 1st, the city will be launching a website with respect to the election. It's our goal to really increase the voter awareness about the election in 2014, make sure that they know how to engage with that democratic process. We want to continue to use the mediums, the regular communication mediums, but also to bump up some of our new communication mediums such as social media and particularly this website. I want to particularly thank IT who has been working with me, and for that we have branded the election, and on January 1st our front page of our website will have a link directly to a place where people can go to learn more, and throughout 2014 we'll be adding information to that website so that people will be able to stay involved and engaged right up to the election. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. City Manager.
So just before the election, I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of senior management and staff to wish the mayor and council and members of the public a very, very happy holidays and a safe and happy new year.
Thank you so much. Councillor Lemon.
I think that it seems like this year has gone very quickly, and a lot's been accomplished, and we've moved ahead on some projects that we've been working on and are becoming closer to reality. And I would like to thank everyone for their patience and understanding. Wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and the best for the new year.
Should we go around the table? Councillor Purdon.
We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
That's neat.
Let's end there.
Notice there wasn't a lot of backup singing. No. Anyone else for this evening? Move the committee rise. Resolution adopting proceedings in committee of the whole, please. Councillor Body.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purdon, that the action taken in committee of the whole in considering public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business be hereby confirmed by this council.
All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Notices of motion, new business by resolution, bylaws, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purdon, that bylaw numbers 2013-230, 232, 233, 234, 235, 236, and 237 be hereby passed and enacted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. And I would like to take a moment to wish everyone in the community, staff, friends, family, community members, a very, very happy holiday, very Merry Christmas, and a very safe, happy, and prosperous 2014. Thank you, and we're adjourned.